Hello, today what we're going to do, we're going to take a look at the Commodore 64. This is the Commodore 64c, and I think these are the last of the C models, because I believe there was two different types of C models. There was the one that came, I think it came out in about 86, I think. Then I don't know, they might have made the motherboard smaller in these ones, and this was basically the last of the C models, the last of the Commodore 64 computers actually. Yeah, so I don't know how old this computer is. It might be 1990, I do not know, but I'm just guessing it could be 1990 or 1991, because this is the model that I had back in the day, and I know I bought it in 1991. Yeah, in the condition of this particular machine, if it is 25 years old, it's rather good. It belonged to my mate. I believe he had two of these. I know he had one that had the first of the C models, which had a red power light. This one's got a green power light. This is how I know this was the second versions of the C models, because they had green power lights. But let's take a look at it. Let's have a look at the top. You can see it's a totally different version from the bread bin model. I never owned a bread bin model. I've only played on a bread bin model briefly. This is when of my other mate had a Commodore 64. He had the original bread bin model. I wasn't keen on the bread bin models, to be honest with you, especially when they made it in brown. Oh, you know, it's a fantastic machine, don't get me wrong, but to make something look, you know, a colour brown, that is really horrible to make anything out of, even cars. You know, colour brown, just really, nah, why? I mean, if it's wood effect or something like that, that'd be different, but you can't have a wood effect computer, can you? Right, let's just take a look, because this is, as I said before, this is the C model, the later C models. Says down here we see Commodore 64, obviously that's the name of the computer, the 64 meaning how much memory it had, 64 kilobytes of RAM, personal computer. So why couldn't they just basically call these the Commodore 64 PCs? There you go. Perhaps that was IBM, wouldn't allow them. Anyway, let's have a look at we see the power light up here, and the keyboard. I'd say the keyboard feels pretty good, but as I say, I had the Amstrad CPC464 originally, and I did own one of these back in the day. As I said, it was about 91 when I actually owned one. You know, I do have a gripe with it, to be honest with you, with the Commodore 64. Yes, I do have a gripe with it. Not a major gripe, because half the time I did use keys on my Amstrad. I liked the cursor keys, and I honestly do not like how these cursor keys are. So you move up, you push it. If you want to move down, you have to push shift and down. Same with left and right. I did not like that. I couldn't get on without that cursor key configuration. But obviously it was a part of the Commodore 64, and obviously it didn't really matter, because usually to play games it was with joystick anyway, and it didn't really matter so much, because basically if you do use keys, you could use the QA/OP configuration, which I mainly did, or use joystick. Let's have a look at the keys actually. So we've got run stop and shift run stop, that loads games. Got a Commodore key, and I like the shift lock, because if you push it, it locks it. Push it up. So basically what that does, if you've got that down, you get all the capitals, and I think obviously if you got it, you get the different characters, like these symbols here, but if you add them, you get them symbols, so on and so on. Yeah, so obviously use shift if you want to just use a capital, nice big space bar, and yeah, return. I mean, keys back in the days was either return or enter, restore button, instant delete, clear home, so obviously there's two in one there. Yeah, it's got a nice feel to the keyboard actually. And when we get the function keys, obviously F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6. Yes, I can't remember. I think it's Shift to access F2. I can't honestly can't remember, because it's rarely that you use F2, F4, F6, F8. It's either F1, F3, F5 or F7. Yeah, I like the layout of the Commodore 64c itself. It's quite a small computer. Okay, compared to the Amstrad, this is pretty small. It's quite a nice size, and colour of it is quite nice. A nice creamy colour. You know, a lot of computers were this colour in the 80s, like the Amiga. I know there was others, and later on the Amstrad, the later Amstrads were the plus range. So yeah, so this colour, yeah, it's quite a nice colour, but once it gets a little bit filthy, it does get a little bit, you can see all the dirt and all that, but this is relatively clean, very clean indeed. So that's the keyboard area of the computer. Let's take a look at the side of it. So here we are. So what we see here is two control ports, which is for joysticks, mice, or even a light gun. So next to that we have the on-off switch and the power input. Yes, so here we go. We'll take a look at the back. We'll see a few bits here. Expansion port. So obviously, yeah, that's where the cartridge goes. If you've got games on cartridge, you can put it in there. That's what meaning expansion ports. So you can probably maybe put extra memory, I think. Don't quote me on that. I know there's extra things you can do being called an expansion port. So obviously it's not just for cartridges. That LMH, I do not know what that is. I do not know. So obviously let's go on to that's the RF output, which is for the aerial lead. Unfortunately, modern days now, everything being digital, you cannot tune it in no more with modern TVs, unless you're lucky enough to have a TV that can tune in older analog signals. If you have, great, but if you're someone like me that don't, but have old sources like an old video recorder, then you might be alright. But then we have the video. So what this is, this can allow like better signals, like video signals, like if you want to plug it into a monitor. And I've ordered a cable, so it enables me to plug it through like the S-Video or the SCART lead, something like that, so you get a nice clear picture. So next to that we have our serial port, maybe to connect it to a printer or something. And next to that is our cassette input, so you can hook up your cassette deck to it, well, the Commodore cassette 1530C2N to it, which I've obviously got. Well, I'll show you that in a minute. And last but not least is your user port. Now what is that for? I do not know. Is that for the car? I can't remember now. I'm sure that is the cartridge port, and that is maybe for floppy disk drives, maybe, or printer. I don't know. I think that is for floppy disk drives, to be honest with you. But don't quote me on that. I never had a floppy disk port drive in my life, and I don't think I've ever used that port at all. And I've never seen anyone with a Commodore 64 in my, when I was playing with my mates. I don't think he ever used that port or the serial port. So, interesting. And there's the other side, nothing on this side. So basically, that's the computer itself. nothing really much to say about it, no more about the top. So let's go through what it's got inside, which I can remember. Well, we all know it's got the brilliant SID chip, which that's the sound interface device, which produces great sounds. So we know it's got 64k, and the processor is just under a megahertz. Don't sound like much, does it? But believe me, it was great. It did what it's supposed to do. It originally came out in 1982, and really, obviously, there's not been no hardware changes, just except for, I think the only thing that was changed was something to do with the SID chip, but I ain't really noticed any difference. But as I say, I've never owned a bread bin model, never really played on a bread bin model. I think about a couple of times basically, and that was years ago. Yeah, so that's the computer side of it. I don't know the technical ins and outs of it, so all I know is the basics. So let's have a look at the next thing. So there's the well, this is bright. This is the, I don't know what the model is on these things. I cannot remember. Is this? Oh, that just tells you how to wire the plug. I had to wire the plug on this. Didn't have one when I got it, but that's not a problem. So it takes me back to wiring plugs. So here we are. That's what the power connects to the Commodore 64, and this is the power brick itself, or better known as the power supply unit. So really, that's it on the power supply unit. And all we know, yep. Power supply input 240 volts, output's 5 volts, yeah, we all know that. And it was made in China, probably where the computer was made too. So, okay, that's the power supply unit. Okay, last but not least, this is the dataset. As I mentioned before, this is the Dataset Unit, the 1530 C2N. Okay, so this what plugs into the back of the Commodore 64, into the cassette port. I don't know, this has got earth on it for some reason. I've never did anything with that. I suppose you're supposed to, but I never did. So here we are with the dataset itself. So we've got a record button, obviously for saving your work, play to load up your software, rewind, fast forward. We've all used a tape deck, so we all know the basic controls, and eject. And this is in pretty good condition. So we have our obviously a light here for your saving, and I don't think this has changed over the years. It's the same thing, I think. Yeah. So nothing really on it. So we see the bottom of it, the Commodore dataset, serial number. Oh, this is actually made in Taiwan. So that's made in China, that's made in Taiwan, and where was this made, I wonder? Probably made in bloody Hong Kong. So so 3 vital parts. You got the main computer, the cassette deck, and the power supply, all made in different regions. So Hong Kong, well, China, of course. Yeah, so that was made in China, but that just says no. This was made in Taiwan, actually. That was made in Hong Kong, and that was made in China. So it don't just say whereabouts in China, but probably made in Hong Kong, same as that. So okay, yeah. So that's just the basic look over of the Commodore 64. Really, these are the 3 vital parts you need, or if you've got a disk drive. Never owned a disk drive, so I couldn't tell you nothing about that, but yeah, so I'd have to say the Commodore 64, a great computer to have. Now, obviously was back in the day, actually, Obviously I didn't have one of these, I had the Amstrad CPC464 to start with. Then, you know, my mate had one of these, and you know, it was good fond memories of the Commodore 64, playing on it, you know, enjoying it. Anyway, yeah, anyway, I'm going to end this video now. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time, and goodbye.